In what way does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? When producing our AS-level thriller media film, Envision, we took great inspiration from a variety of thriller films, therefore giving Envision some elements of similarity to other thriller films. This included a variety of camera shots, mise-en-scène and appropriate characters. Even though Envision possesses a lot of normal connotations of a thriller film, there also has been some developed changes to the stereotype of a thriller film. During the process of filming Envision, there was a lot of variety in respect to the camera shots. The opening of Envision was created using a tracking shot, thus showing the location and setting of the film, which was set in Shalford, a small village in Essex. The tracking shot used illustrated a run-down apartment, with the main character Stuart, who is barely surviving in the dingy apartment due to his ongoing drug addiction. The use of the tracking shot was taken from the film Pulp Fiction and fits extremely well with the eerie atmosphere we were trying to accomplish. Other camera shots were used, such as Worm's eye view shot, when Stuart's car zooms over the camera. This was similar to the tilting shot, which was added to generate an uneven feel. Envision also included shots such as zooms, pans and close-ups to create the feeling of tension, mystery and suspense. Mise-en-scène played a large part in making our film look and feel like a generic thriller film. We narrowly kept to the conventions of a thriller film in regards to mise-en-scène, which include the costume, props and makeup for our characters. Our main character in Envision has a costume that consists of tatty, ripped, worn clothes. This includes a baggy jumper, worn-out shoes and overly ripped jeans. As our main character Stuart is a drug addict, the choice of costume really meets the stereotypical image of a drug addict. Even though in a thriller film, the main character is normally a hero, their costume is normally fitted to the character in the background portrayed, which is what we aimed for. Alongside the costume used, Stuart is seen using props that fit within the aura of being a drug dealer. Needles were placed in the setting of Stuart's character to emphasise the dangers behind being a drug addict. As the costume and props used for Stuart fitted his character within a thriller film, this met the conventions of a thriller film. Also accepting of the normal, stereotypical costumes for characters in films, not just necessarily thriller films, is the role of the princess, suggested by the media theorist Vladimir Prop. The princess as a character is seen as being vulnerable and needs to be rescued. Lily, the princess of Envision, is seen to be wearing casual clothes that fits the 20-year-old female role. Captured in Envision, Lily walks down a country road, presumably on her way to meeting a friend whilst on her mobile phone. Using a mobile phone connotates that Lily is vulnerable due to not being able to be aware of her surroundings. The location of this scene is an example of one of the major scenes used in our film. Using a gloomy country road builds up the tension of the unknown. By using the prop of a mobile phone, this made Lily extremely relatable to young individuals who are engrossed in technology. Therefore, as well as Stuart, Lily also fits the conventions of costumes within a thriller film, and also use of the appropriate prop that meets thriller film standard. Blake, known as a villain in Envision, is shown to be wearing black, oversized clothing, which was used to distort the perception of the villain character. This is typical of a killer in a thriller film, as they do not want to be noticed by anyone in case their identification is put at risk or jeopardy. Taking inspiration from the characters in the film Before I Go to Sleep when deciding costumes, Blake was directed to wear dark clothing, suggesting that a killer cannot be identified as easily as people may think. This is a true connotation of a thriller film. Blake also possesses a knife in Envision. This is a typical connotation of a general film that includes a killer, but in relation to a thriller film, Blake is sticking typically to the connotations because he is armed with a serious weapon. The music that was used in Envision was composed by Lexis Smith and Joe Henson. The track is named Raising the Barn and was discovered on the website called Audio Network. This piece of music is a mixture of heavy bass drums with a twist of country and western themed instruments. This necessarily doesn't fit with the musical connotations of a thriller film. This challenging the norm. This necessarily doesn't fit with the musical connotations of a thriller film, thus challenging the norm. The music normally found in a thriller film is eerie and quite dark, which emphasises the suspense of the mystery. Even though Envision doesn't use a dark soundtrack, Raising the Barn does possess some traits of suspense and mystery. How does your media product represent How does your media product represent particular social groups? The character of Stuart represents drug addicts in a negative way in Envision. Stuart is illustrated to be spending his money on the wrong things, in this case drugs. Therefore leads to other aspects of his life being neglected, like his health and the lack of care towards the environment he is staying in. Stuart is shown to be poorly kept through the use of the costume, which consists of old and torn clothing. This helps the audience make a link to Stuart's way of life. A brief encounter of Stuart's phone shows that it is smashed, which therefore shows Stuart isn't able to repair his phone screen because he can't afford it. The quick glance of many empty alcohol bottles lying around the apartment also helps build the foundation of illustrating the way of life which Stuart conducts. These are all things that Stuart would be able to adjust or fix if he wasn't so absorbed by his drug addiction. Drug addicts are also stereotypically known to have no money due to funding their addiction. Envision condones this stereotype as Stuart can only afford a bedsit and drives a very old car. It is clear in Envision that Stuart is unemployed and doesn't conduct a structured life. This can be linked to class and status. According to the socio-economic classification system, Stuart falls into the group of E, which leads Stuart to possess a lower status due to being unemployed. We chose to portray Stuart in a negative light, as this would be a typical convention of a thriller film. This is also shown in Trainspotting, directed by Danny Boyle, who uses many characters including Mark Renton, a drug addict. Renton is shown as a drug addict in a negative, reckless, carefree light, which has a huge inspiration towards Envision. The character of Blake, the villain, represents young men as being violent and not caring about the consequences of their actions. Blake's violent personality suggests that all young males act this way and was a threat to young people. In this case, especially to younger females. People of higher class or elderly people see certain young adults as being reckless, untrustworthy, and dangerous. Blake's character encourages these ideas as he fits within these characteristics. Lily represents young girls as being weak and vulnerable. This is a typical convention of a thriller film, as young females or females in general are known to be the victim. Lily is the princess in Envision, as she is at risk of being attacked by the villain by walking on her own down a country road. Females are often shown to be passive and vulnerable, and younger females are normally shown to fail at keeping themselves safe, not taking any precautions in potentially threatening situations and not being overly sensible. What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? There are varieties of ways that we could distribute Envision. One way would be through a large conglomerate such as Walt Disney Companies, which would be the use of public distribution. This would be a very advantageous way to distribute our film, as it would encourage vertical integration. However, for a film like Envision that has such a small budget and so little funding, vertical integration would not be successful. For films distributed with a large conglomerate, an option of distribution would be celluloid. These individual reels of film cost £1,000 each, and this expense would have to come out of Envision's budget. £1,000 is spent each time the film is sold to another cinema chain. As Envision would have a smaller budget, celluloid is not an option, as we couldn't physically afford this method. Therefore, Envision would have to find another distribution method, and that is when we chose to use digital distribution. For a company like JCR Studios, this is a good distribution method, as it is a lot cheaper, as sites like YouTube are free to use. If we were to distribute our film via YouTube, we would be able to share our film across many different social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter and Snapchat, which are also free to use. This may lead to less people seeing our film, but is more realistic to use with our budget. For distribution in regards to Envision, we would definitely take advantage of digital distribution and online streaming. Another advantage of using digital distribution as opposed to using celluloid is that digital produced films are the same quality that they are produced in to the time they are deleted off of YouTube or any media platform. Digitally produced films that can be played over and over and will remain the same quality throughout. Celluloid, on the other hand, when played numerously, begin to become worn and therefore decrease in quality. making the film appear to be in worse quality when coming to the end of its time being shown at a cinema. An alternative of distributing Envision without using a conglomerate like Walt Disney Companies, who have distributed large-selling films such as Rogue One, we would privately distribute our film using a British distribution company. An example of a British distribution company that we as JCR Studios could use would be E1, who have distributed films such as I, Daniel Blake and Monster Calls and Ballerina. This sort of company would be useful for Envision because they can use a niche audience. E1 would happily distribute Envision at the same time as a blockbuster film such as Rogue One because the two films attract two completely different audiences. As well as approaching E1, JCR Studios could also receive support from the British Film Institution. The BFI is known to help fund independent films with the money from the National Lottery. A percentage of the money that would be made by distributing Envision would be given back to the BFI to help fund other independent British films in the future. Who would be the audience for your media product? Envision is targeted greatly to a niche audience. This is a typical convention of a thriller film, opposed to a mass audience because the audience that watch thriller films usually know exactly what the plot of a thriller film consists of. Thriller films are known to have dark storylines, which may appeal to more people than others. Envision is especially aimed at niche audience, because not many people are going to want to watch a film based on a drug addict unless they have an interest or can relate to the circumstances. Drug addiction is a taboo subject that not many people want to acknowledge or admit. According to the BBFC age rating of Envision, the youngest age of viewing would be 15 years old. JCR Studios decided that 15 would be the most suitable age rating for Envision because drugs are not shown in a positive light. Neither does it encourage the use of drugs, so therefore Envision is suitable enough to be classified as a 15 rating. There is a strong sense of threat generated through the character of Blake, which may disturb a younger audience, which is another reason why the target audience is 15 plus. In addition to these reasons, there is also the use of violence in Envision, due to Lily being stabbed. However, there is no gore or blood seen by the audience, as well as there is no dwelling on pain, so it can be seen by people above 15. The target audience for Envision is aimed at men in their mid-20s, early 40s. JCR Studios chose men specifically because due to statistics stating that men are twice more likely than women to misuse drugs. This therefore makes Envision relatable to a wider audience. However, women facing addiction will still be able to relate to Stuart and his situation. How did you attract or address your audience? One way in which JCR Studios attracted the audience for Envision was by making sure that the opening 2 minutes ended on a cliffhanger. This made the audience unsure as to what would happen next. The abrupt ending of Envision proposes many questions, such as, why was Lily murdered? Who is Blake and why did he victimise Lily? Or will Stuart pull his life together? There are so many possible answers to these questions. This makes the audience stay engaged when watching the beginning of Envision, and therefore enticing them to watch the rest of the film. The opening 2 minutes show a great detail of the location, but doesn't overly cover information of the character or the overall plot, which will keep the viewers engaged. JCR Studios also attracted the audience for Envision by using a main character who is similar to the target audience, which is a 30-year-old male. By using a male that mirrors the target audience age as our main character really helps the audience relate. When choosing the main character, JCR Studios could have picked someone different for the main character, for example the character of Lily, then it would make it harder for the target audience to relate to the main character. Raising the Barn, the music played a huge part to ensure Envision appealed to the target audience. This track played throughout the scenes of Stuart waking up and arriving to the location of the drug deal is very similar to the music from the opening of Fargo, a Netflix series. Fargo is a thriller TV series that is targeted to a similar audience as Envision. As Fargo has been such a massive hit in the past, JCR Studios decided it would be a good source of inspiration. Raising the Barn is the use of contrapuntal music, as this track is fairly upbeat and nearly the opposite of what typical thriller music is. However, this type of music still attracts a targeted audience as it is similar to Fargo. What have you learned about technologies from the process of constructing this product? Throughout the process of creating Envision, I have learned how to individually use Blogger. Blogger enables people anywhere to publish their work. JCR Studios used Blogger to publish our final film, also the research and planning behind Envision. Through exploring the site of Blogger, I have learnt how to make videos posts, written posts, and how to edit information. Before the process of creating Envision, I had never used or even heard of the website Blogger. This was a great experience for me, but was extremely easy to grasp. Without the use of Blogger, JCR Studios wouldn't have been able to make Envision or even post the research and planning behind the film. Other people wouldn't have been able to see the thoughts and processes that JCR Studios put behind Envision. I efficiently learnt how to work a DSLR camera whilst filming Envision. Larger production companies, on the other hand, may have had the budget to spend on a better quality camera, but JCR Studios decided that JCR Studios decided that a DSLR camera would be perfect for what we needed within our budget. The way a DSLR camera works is easy to pick up and wouldn't be as expensive as a higher-ended camera to fix if anything went wrong. I feel as though I didn't have to spend a great deal of time learning how to use the camera, which benefited JCR Studios largely. It was important that the whole group knew how to work the camera to ensure that Envision would be filmed to the best possible standard. The main technique that we used from the camera was the zoom. By using the zoom, this led JCR Studios to access the perfect way to film certain scenes, for example zooming into Stuart at the start of the film. Another piece of equipment I learnt about and how to use was the GoPro. We captured footage like Stuart's car zooming over the camera by using the GoPro, which gave us a perfect worm's eye view shot. Premiere Pro was used for the whole of the editing process. Premiere Pro is used by thousands of people to edit their own footage and make films like JCR Studios. I thought that this program was an amazing piece of software, which helped us as a group transform ordinary clips into the amazing finishing product of Envision. Premiere Pro has also helped edit films like Avatar, Gone Girl and Hugo. Everything that we wanted to achieve for Envision was accessible in Premiere Pro, and this is why we chose to use it. Even though Premiere Pro was proven to be tough at times, after a few rough designs, JCR Studios were able to use the software easily. Throughout creating Envision, there was one particular tool used to increase the quality of Envision. The colour correction tool was used greatly because we needed to add the eerie darkened colours over the top of our footage to make Envision seem even more like a thriller film. Another tool that was used was the video transitions, making Envisions run smoothly by fading two clips together. For example, the clip of Stuart streaming to them waking up. We were able to make it easier to tell which part is a dream and which is reality by using the black and white tool and the colour tool too, which makes the two clips different from one another. Audio effects were used to change the way that the soundtrack sounded, like when Stuart was waking up from his dream. By using the editing tool, we was able to highlight that this clip was from Stuart's point of view, showing that Stuart's hearing may be partially impaired from his addiction to drugs. Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in the progression from it to the full product? Since our preliminary task, JCR Studios have improved in many ways. The skills we have gained from working a camera is now at a high level, and as a group we are able to work a DSLR camera efficiently. In the preliminary task, as a group we were not able to zoom out without the camera appearing to be amateur-like and not overly smooth. However, now with the skills we have acquired as a group, our footage that required zooming is a lot better. Also used within our preliminary task was a reverse dolly shot. This shot is very effective. However, filming the shot seemed to be harder than we thought. The shot appeared to not be in the complete focus. Even though these shots seemed to be on the difficult side of filming, the other shots we filmed were extremely accurate, even if they were simpler. So as JCR Studios, we decided to take extra care when filming Envision and use some more effective and exciting shots. Some example of these shots we use in Envision would be worm's eye view, a tracking shot and a Dutch tilt. Using these kinds of shots makes our film more appealing to the distributors, as it makes our film look more professional and of better quality. In regards to mise-en-scène, aspects like costume design and the use of props, Envision looks more professional than our preliminary task. During our preliminary task, we did not specifically dress our characters in appropriate costumes. Looking back on this makes us, as JCR Studios, realise the impact that costume has on a character and tried to make sure the costume used reflected our characters' types. The characters in our preliminary task were not taken seriously and were not relatable at all to the audience. This therefore made it hard for them to appreciate where the characters are and what is happening to them. Due to the lack of the costume in our preliminary task, it is almost impossible to tell that all the characters are office workers, as they are seen to be wearing everyday clothes opposed to suits or smart dresses. In comparison to our preliminary task, the use of costume used in our final film is significantly better. It is extremely clear to the audience that Stuart is a drug addict through the use of tatty clothes. This type of costume doesn't make Stuart seem or look smart, which helps him fit the role perfectly. It is also clear to the audience that Lily is a normal young woman, as she is seen in casual everyday clothes of what a young woman would wear. If Lily was to wear a suit, the audience would have been more suspicious as to what is about to happen. It was made clear that Blake is the villain, as he is wearing black clothing, which is a typical convention of a villain shown in a thriller film, alongside the use of a weapon, in this case a knife. Without this, the audience wouldn't have been able to tell what Blake was about to do to Lily. The use of a weapon, such as a knife, sets a terrorising tone to the film and illustrates to the audience that something bad is about to happen, or will happen, was like as a character. Using empty alcohol bottles and using needles really gave a clue to the audience as to what sort of character Stuart is. The plot presented in our preliminary task was very basic compared to the plot behind Envision. This was due to the lack of research. Our preliminary task had a very basic plot that included a man who was late to work, which resulted in him being fired after speaking to his boss. If we had used such a simple storyline like this for our final film, then we wouldn't have great interest from an audience, as they wouldn't have been able to tell what was occurring. Whereas with Envision's plot, it is more complex and isn't as straightforward as our preliminary task, thus making the audience have to think about what is about to happen next, and makes the film more exciting. Due to the complex storyline behind Envision, like not knowing why Lily was murdered, for example, this increases the likelihood of the target audience to want to carry on watching.